Good morning. This video is about an attorney named Steve Walls, Steve Ray Walls, lest you should get confused. He is an attorney in Polk County, Oregon, and he has been supposedly representing our two youngest children for approximately 5 years and 4 months in our DHS case. And from day one on January 31st, 2018, shortly after the case started, Steve Walls, the attorney, was jumping up and down screaming for TPR. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's termination of parental rights. So we are 5 years and 4 months into this case, and 4 of our 6 children have aged out and come home. They have successful lives ongoing, and we are currently just entering the TPR phase with a new judge. And so I'll go over some details about this case, in that when the 6 children were taken in December of 2017 and placed in foster care, the youngest 2 were separated. Now, all of our kids' first language is the Akha language. It's a Southeast Asian language. That's the only language we spoke in the home. And their mother is from Southeast Asia, which seems to be an issue in Polk County. And typically, when you have children to place, you place them with someone who speaks their same language. So I believe Aubrey Haverkost from Dallas was the first caseworker that we endured for at least 4 years. And she immediately separated out the 2 youngest. Now, the girl was 1.5 years. The boy was 3.5, born on the same day, 2 years apart. And they didn't speak any English. They only understood Akha. And Aubrey Haverkost and the minions around her at DHS Dallas separated those 2 out to a foster family and separated them out from their older sisters and brothers who spoke their language and who could comfort them. Now, I want to interject here something about the tactics of DHS. This is not a benign organ agency. It's very specific in what they do. And I've talked to numerous women, numerous families who have had their children taken. And over, there's a pattern where DHS separates out the youngest children or a baby from the family and uses excuses why they've done that. But the goal is to set up the opportunity for adoption. And so this is very specifically done. There'll be a woman with 3 kids and a new baby. And I know of a case recently where they told a woman with a number of kids and a newborn baby that, well, you already have kids. So they show up at the hospital and they take the baby right away as soon as it's born. They have no regard for mothers, and they have no regard for child trauma. They claim to be trauma informed, but they're absolutely clueless. So that's what happened at the beginning of our case. We saw the pattern repeated with many mothers that we came to know. And DHS gets a $6,000 bonus for each child they adopt out. They have these adoption celebrations where they adopt all kinds of children out. Of course, the foster parents that adopt don't know the full story. We have dealt with many lies by DHS, so it's a pattern of lying. So we can assume that in many of these cases, many lies have been told, and even to the children. to convince them that there was really good reasons to adopt them out, and they're going to live happily ever after as a result, which of course they never do. And so this is what we encounter with the adoption system coming out of DHS. Actually, Oregon DHS actually runs a program called RAFT, I think it is, RAFT, and they try to get PR people to promote training for families that want to adopt. And so there's a regular industry that goes on around this. And so I just wanted to let you know the tactics that we saw and how it goes on for lots of families. The foster mom said 3 years into the case that the little girl was still waking up in the night screaming and would not be consoled. Now, I don't think this would have happened if she hadn't been separated from her siblings. So that's on Steve Walls and Aubrey Haverkost. It's also on the court because they ignored that. It's also on CASA because they ignored that. And it's also on the CRB board members because they ignored that. And it's also a violation of rights because they shouldn't have been separated. Okay? And so it tells you something about Steve Walls, that he had no problem with that or the trauma that it caused. Okay? So he never opposed it from anything that we can see in the record. And he was perfectly fine with it. And Aubrey Haverkost, bless her dear heart, she commented that the screaming in the night 3 years on was from the trauma of being in foster care. I would note that she has a daughter almost the same age as our youngest, who was taken from her mother's arms in the middle of the night. And what's interesting to me about this case is how the caseworkers, the staff at DHS, lawyers, and lots of other people involved, they all have kids of their own. And they compartmentalize what is being done to other people's kids. I guess they spend a lot of time lying to themselves to make them feel okay with it, while they're having their happy little life with their kids, with their grandkids, and ignoring, refusing to admit the trauma that our children are went through. So Steve Walls didn't have any problem with this. But in 5 years and 4 months, he's been doing everything in his power to TPR our kids and destroy our family. He makes derogatory comments about our family. And so he is very much vested interest in destroying our relationships in our family. So it comes about that during this time of Steve Walls putting so much effort and angst into his appearances at the CRB or family meetings or court, that his family, his marriage was destroyed. And he was married to a woman named Natalia, and she's 20 years younger than he is, so she's a young woman, and he had 2 daughters with her, and he divorced her. And so his marriage, his relationships became destroyed while he is putting tons of energy in destroying our family and our relationships. Our family's still here, still looking out for each other, still coping with things that we've had to deal with, taking care of each other. and making sure our kids have what they need. And his situation's changed, and I think you could say there's some poetic justice in that. So anyway, I don't have much else to say about Steve Walls, but it appears to me with so many of these attorneys that these cases, they get assigned a case and the kids really don't matter. It's just business. So anyway, our case moves on, and it will be known that Steve Walls had no problem with lying witnesses, and our children understand that, and our two youngest will certainly discover that at some point. And so it's just a sad commentary on attorneys. Now, it was my understanding that Steve Walls said that he had quite an alcohol problem. Now, I don't know if that played into his divorce or not, but that maybe somehow explains some of the behavior that we've encountered. But I would like to say this, and maybe Natalia Walls is listening. Maybe Natalia Walls is watching this video right now. A tiger doesn't change its stripes. And a well does not turn out both sweet and bitter water. And if you knew what the mother of my children has gone through in 5 years and 4 months, what she's been put through, and how she's been treated by Steve Walls in the court, how she's been misquoted by Steve Walls in the court, and the damaging, heartbreaking effect it's had on our children, with not a shred of compassion or conscience on the part of Steve Walls. A woman who cries herself to sleep every night for 5 years and more. A woman who knows her children are being lied to, misrepresented to, who knows the foster moms being lied to, who has experienced Aubrey Haverkost, who worked closely with Steve Walls, say, when asked about the fact that they lost contact with their native language, they can learn their language later. This is the situation, and this is the concern that Steve Walls has for other people's children. Like I say, 4 of our 6 kids have returned home. They can testify to how they were treated and the effects it had on their life, and the lies that were told to them by foster parents to denigrate their parents, to extend the lies put out by DHS. So if you want to know how the father of your children actually operates against other people's children, I invite you to contact me, and I invite you to go to children's juvenile court to sit in and watch the disdain, the contempt with how this man operates. It's all just money. It's all just business. The kids don't matter. I don't know how many times I've had people tell me, Steve Walls doesn't care anything about the kids in these cases. It's all just about winning.